Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Locked On Jayhawks. Again, check out Locked On College Football. You can give us a follow at LO_Jayhawks or at D Johnson Radio. What are the matchups of the game? What are going to be the key pieces for KU against Texas Tech? First down, can Kansas block Texas Tech? Very point blank. The great pass defense, pass efficiency defense, the interceptions that Tech has, the yards per carry against numbers that we've kind of talked about. It all starts with the defensive line and the pass rush. And I think all of them have some level of relation to the pass rush, right? If you're getting more sacks, it's going to lower the opponent's yard per carry number because that counts against rushing yards in college football. If you're getting pressure, it's going to force more ill-advised throws and possibly more interceptions. If, it's going to make your pass defense overall a lot better. It makes life a lot easier when you can rush the passer. Here's the Pro Football Focus grades of the Texas Tech starting front four. David Bailey, 90.4. Romello Height, 91.4. Those are their two defensive ends. Then up the middle, Skylar Gill-Howard, 84.3. And Lee Hunter, 85.6. Missouri had a really good defensive line that Kansas played. I think this one's even better. I think this is going to be the best defensive line you played. Missouri will probably be second. Maybe Utah will be third or something like that. It is very good. So can you block them, right? And that doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Doesn't mean you need a game where you have 0 sacks or you give up, only 1 tackle for loss. Some of those things are going to happen in this game. They just are. How do you respond to it? And can you just avoid it from becoming the thing of the game? Like, don't walk away from this game going, yeah, Texas Tech won the game because they had 7 sacks and 12 TFLs. It's like, oh, they had 1 sack, maybe a few more pressures than you would like. They had 5 TFLs, and it's like, yeah, they didn't take over the game, but they had a few plays that they won on. But if they can block Tech, Kansas ranks 12th nationally in yards per attempt passing, quarterback rating, and touchdown to interception ratio. And Tech has given up a fair amount of passing explosive plays that we talked about earlier. If you can block them, you can hit some of those passing explosive plays and maybe have more. They haven't given up more than 14 points. I think you would hope that Kansas can score more than that, but it starts with being able to block them. Second down is avoiding the killer turnover. Texas Tech leads the Big 12 with those 8 interceptions. They're also tied 5th in fumbles forced with 5 of them. This is a defense that not only are they very good, they're forcing a lot of turnovers. You're a 2-touchdown underdog. How often does a 2-touchdown underdog win on the road against a really good team without winning the turnover battle, with having killer turnovers themselves? You need to be the team that's forcing the killer turnovers, not the other way around. So I think Kansas needs to be clean on the offensive side of the ball, which is much easier said than done. And I think they have to win the turnover margin here, which obviously is very much coach speak because you say that going into each and every game. But when you are a 2-touchdown underdog, that gets amplified even more. Like, you need some fun, crazy, weird things to happen go in your favor. Third down, going back to the well on third down. We're doing third downs. We've talked a lot about this so far this year. The Kansas so far this season has not been up to snuff on third downs. That right now Kansas comes into this game 14th in the Big 12 on third down conversions. And you look at Texas Tech's defense, you guessed it, they're the number 1 defense in the Big 12 in third down conversion rate against. But you look at last season, Kansas was first in the Big 12. You look at the 2 previous seasons, Kansas was hovering around 59 or 49, 50, 51% on third downs. They've consistently over the last 3 seasons prior to this year been one of the best third down teams in the country. Now, it's a different play caller now, but Jalon Daniels is still your quarterback. Did all of that go away? Even if you said you were going to be worse on third downs, I guess you could say that, maybe as much as this year's receiving core has much more explosiveness and guys like Emmanuel Henderson, maybe just the trust and the good route running and contested catch making of those receivers that you had with Arnold, Grimm, and Skinner, that was enough to be a better third down team. But you wouldn't think it would be a gap this big. You wouldn't think it'd be going from 51% to 31%. I still think there's some reversion in there for Kansas to happen. And I still don't know if it's going to happen in a 2-game stretch where KU just converts every third down for 2 games, or maybe they just have one game where they go 10 of 11 or something like that. And this probably isn't the one that you would point to because Tech is the number 1 third down defense. But if ever it were to happen, this would be a great one for it to happen for KU because on the paper, it is a big edge for Texas Tech. You also look at the other side. Texas Tech is number 3 in the Big 12 in third down conversion rate as an offense. KU defense is number 10. Of the 16 teams in the league. So third down on paper is a big advantage for Texas Tech. If you want to go on the road and quiet the crowd, it's converting those key third downs that make it feel like gut punches to the crowd that they can't get off the field. And we saw it work the opposite way when KU played at Missouri. I also think Kansas, if you just want to say like late downs here, you have to be more aggressive. You're a 2-touchdown underdog. You have to be willing to go for some fourth downs that maybe you wouldn't normally do in a game like this. And then fourth down here is KU's defense buckling down in the red zone. If there's a potential bugaboo for Texas Tech, they don't have many, but it might be red zone offense. So they've scored on 90% of the red zone trips, which is solid, but that's 7th in the Big 12. That's more middle of the pack for a team who wants to be number 1 in everything right now in the Big 12. But it's not just the amount of times they're scoring or not scoring. It's the fact that they've had 11 field goals in their 28 trips. So if Kansas can have a game where they keep them around that percentage, right? Let's say they have 6 red zone trips. Could you find a way to force them to 3 field goals there? Because 6 red zone trips would be a lot, but 30 points against the Texas Tech offense that's really explosive when your defense at times has struggled. I don't know. Like I would take 30. If you guaranteed Tech would only score 30 points, I would take that to the bank and run with it. I know they have a really good defense and it's going to be tough to score 30 points yourself, but like I would gladly take that to the bank, right? Kansas has not been very good defensively in the red zone. So far this season, they have the second worst score percentage allowed in the Big 12 at 94% in the red zone. The only team who has a worse score percentage in the red zone is Utah at 100%. But guess what? Utah has only given up 6 red zone trips. Kansas has given up 17. So point being, and you got a big one against UCF, and we saw the difference there. Kansas got the red zone stop against UCF on the goal line stand. That was their first of the season. You might need another one in this game against Texas Tech if you want to win it. And that is something where you hope to improve at as the season goes on. And maybe that was the start of it improving against UCF, but you're going to really need it against Texas Tech because that's one of your big hopes in this one is trying to hold them and limit them and bend but not break in the red zone. Maybe you force a turnover in the red zone. Like those would be ways that Kansas could try to pull this upset. We'll get to the keys to the game on tomorrow's episode, though, players to watch, all that on tomorrow's episode as well. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Locked On Jayhawks. You can find our show anywhere you get your podcast, including on our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. See you next time with LOJ.